Hello, dear children. Today we will begin with the second lesson in the fourth unit, that is 4.2, the storyteller. As the title tells us, the storyteller is the one who tells the story. So, in our Indian culture, we know that when ever since we are very small, in fact, ever since we do not understand anything, since then we have a tradition of telling stories. Like usually, the grandparents tell stories to their grandchildren, even before they reach the age of 1 year or so. So since then they are very infants and we feel that they don't understand anything, but still since that age only we have a tradition of telling stories. Bedtime stories is very common if we see, and I'm very sure you all must have heard some or the other stories from either your grandparents or your parents or some of your elderly relatives. Now the reason behind telling the stories to children or right from childhood, not only to the children but to everyone, whenever we tell stories, they have an intention behind it. The intention is generally that to give good moral values, to teach good moral values to these children, and directly teaching them, mm, they may not believe so much in the moral values, but then when it is told in a story form it becomes interesting and the morals are very well understood by them, like why they should do that or why they shouldn't behave adversely. So, this is the general idea about telling the story. Also, it was a um, type of entertainment in earlier times when they didn't had televisions and radios. And even after that, even today, we do tell stories, and also on the different social medias or different gadgets, we have these stories available for them, although now it has taken so many dimensions that there are so many different types of stories, like the motivational stories, the moral building stories, then the stories of fairies. Then now we have stories like Harry Potter and Rapunzel and so many other stories as well. So uh, basically there are different types of stories, and generally when these stories are told, these are the smaller stories which we tell. Now on this basis, the warming up activity, the first question in that, it says that the story short stories are of many types. Match the types of stories in column A with its description in column B. So let us begin with the first activity. Anecdote is C, that is a short amusing account of an incident. The second one is fable. Fable means the E option, that is moral bearing story with animal characters. The third one, parable, is G, having religious uh, base or characters, having religious base and a message, moral. Then the myth is the J option, that is originated in ancient times, authorship unknown. The author of such stories is unknown. The next, legend, is the F option, that is the having historic base or characters but may not be true. Then fairy tale, of course, as you all know, is a I option, that is having supernatural characters or moral for children. Then a tragic tale is, as the name suggests, serious and ends in a tragedy. A fiction is the B option, that is unreal, sorry, untrue but realistic. A farce is an exaggerated comedy, and a satire is where vices and follies are ridiculed, which means the good things and the bad things are made fun of. Moving ahead to the next activity, it is complete the following story using the verb in the brackets in their proper form. Now this actually means that the verbs are given in the bracket and you are supposed to fill in using the proper form of it, means using proper tenses. So let us read it along as well. One night a man okay, so a man had a dream. He, just a minute, had a dream. He dreamt. He dreamt that he was walking along the beach with God. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene he noticed two set of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to God. Yeah. After the last scene had flashed, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He observed. He observed that many times along the path of his life were sorry, there were only one set of footprints, and that it had happened had happened at the saddest, most troubled troubled times of his life. He questioned he questioned God about it. God, you said that once I decided to follow you, you would walk with me all the way. So I don't understand why you left me alone when I needed you most. God replied, during your times of trials and sufferings, where you saw only one footprints, only one set of footprints, they were mine. For it was then I carried you in my arms. Now moving ahead to the lesson. Let us begin with the lesson now. It was a hot afternoon and the railway carriage was correspondingly sultry, and the next stop was at Templecombe, nearly an hour ahead. Now, this is a scene of a railway compartment, and it was a hot afternoon, and the railway compartment was comparatively sultry. Sultry is hot and humid, and the next stop at which the train was about to stop, or when was scheduled to stop, was the Templecombe station, and that was almost an hour ahead. The compartment sorry the occupants of the carriage were a small girl and a smaller girl and a small boy. So these were the people present in the compartment. There was a small girl, there was a still smaller girl, then smaller than that girl, and there was a small boy. Their aunt occupied one corner seat, so there was one aunt with these children, and she occupied one corner window seat, and on the opposite side was occupied by a bachelor who was a stranger to their party. So these all four belonged to the to be known to each other, but then there was one more passenger in the train who was sitting right opposite to the aunt. He was a stranger and he was a bachelor. Both the aunt and the children were conversational in a limited, persistent way, reminding one of the attendants of the housefly reminding one of the attentions of a housefly that refuses to be discouraged. So I think I missed the middle part. Yeah. But the small girls and the boy empathetically occupied the compartment. Now, here, empathetically means in a noticeable way. So, since these three children were smaller, so they occupied the compartment, means they were moving throughout the compartment here and there, and it was completely occupied by them. Both the aunt and the children were conversational in a limited, persistent way, reminding one of the attentions of a housefly that refuses to be discouraged. Now, now this aunt was continuously. All these four, in fact, were conversational. They were talking to each other in a limited, but in a very persistence, means um, which can be very noticeable way. They were conversational in each with each other. Now, just the way they have given a comparison, like if there is a fly who continuously keeps on sitting here and there, and however you try to catch her or to make her fly away, she does not do that, and it continuously keeps on disturbing you. Similarly, all these three children and their aunt were in conversation with each other, were talking to each other in such a way that they were continuously diverting the attention of the bachelor. Most of the aunt's remarks seemed to begin with don't, and nearly all the children's remarks began with why. The bachelor said nothing out loud. Now, since these were the children and they didn't knew how to behave in a train. Of course, no, none of the children know that. So they were also just playing around and having fun. So all the conversations or all the things that the aunt said generally began with don't, like don't do this, don't do that, don't sit there, don't stand there, don't jump. So these types of things the aunt was telling the children, and every time the children were speaking, almost most of the times they were saying why shouldn't I jump, why shouldn't I go there, why shouldn't I sit here, why shouldn't I stand, why shouldn't I move around. So all of their questions began with why. And all this time the bachelor was just sitting quietly, and he said nothing loudly. Don't, Cyril, don't, explained the aunt as the small boy began smacking the cushion on the seat, producing a cloud of dust at each blow. So, by this time, the small boy, started banging on the cushion of the seat of the berth, and every time he used to hit the berth, it used to produce a cloud, means a lot of smoke, lot of dust was coming out of it. So the aunt said, and the aunt told him not to do that. Come and look out of the window, she added. So, to divert his attention, she told him to come and sit near her and look out of the window. The child moved reluctantly to the window. Why are those sheep being driven out of the field? He asked. So he was not willing. Reluctantly means he was not willing. Unwillingly, he went and sat near the aunt, and he started looking out of the window. When he started looking out of the window, he saw that some sheep uh, were being taken out of a field. So he asked his aunt, why are those sheep being driven out of that field? I expect they are being driven out to another field where there is more grass, said the aunt weakly. Now, why the sheep were driven out of the farm or out of the field, even the aunt didn't know. But just to answer his question, the aunt said that probably I think they must be taken out to some other field where there is more grass. But there is lots of grass in that field, protested the boy. That's nothing, there's nothing else but grass there. And, and there's lots of grass in that field. So this answer of the aunt that they are probably taken to the another field for more grass didn't convince the little boy, and he said against the aunt that why are they taken, because this field also has lot of grass. Rather, he said that this has only lots and lots of green grass, so there is a lot of grass in the field. So he was not convinced with the aunt's answer. Perhaps the grass in the other field is better, suggested the aunt flatulously. Now the aunt did not really knew the real reason why the sheep were driven out of the field, but then uh, fatuously, that is foolishly, she said that probably they are being uh, taken to a field which has better grass, better quality of grass. So he asked, why is it better? Came the swift, inevitable question. Now, this was an inevitable means unavoidable question. So, immediately the small boy asked her, why is it better? What makes you say that it is better, or which way is it better? Oh, look at those cows, explained the aunt. Nearly every field along the line had contained cows or bullocks, but she spoke as though she were drawing attention to a rarity. Now the aunt really did not had explanation to his question, like why the sheep were driven out of the field, how the grass was green, or how there was more grass in another field. So to divert his attention, she was unable to answer his query. So to divert his attention, she told him, see, look at those cows. And she said it in a way as in there was something which was something unusual or very rare. And when where they were traveling, the view outside the window, railway window, train's window, was like every field had at least a few cows or few bullocks. So it was nothing something very unusual or very rare, or like see there's a tiger, or see there's a lion, or see there's a leopard sort of thing. It was just a cow, and there were lots of cows and bullocks in almost every field. Why is the grass in the other field better? Persisted Cyril. Now Cyril was very curious to know that why the grass in the other field was better, and so he asked the question again. The frown on the bachelor's face was deepening to a scrawl. So now by this time, the bachelor, who was very silent and who did not speak anything, he was just observing everything quietly. So since this there was a continuous questioning, and the aunt was not able to give a proper answer to the children, so he had a very sad or irritated feeling on his face. And uh, these expressions were still getting deeper and more concentrated, and it turned into a scroll, which is an angry look. Scowl, which is an angry look. He was a hard, unsympathetic man, the aunt decided in her mind. So the aunt thought that this is a very hard, or very can say very with very less emotions, and this man is probably unsympathetic, so he has no sympathy, or he has no concentration or no understanding. This the aunt decided in her mind for the bachelor. He was utterly unable to come to any satisfactory decision about the grass in the other field. Now she was not able to convince the child that why the grass on the other field was better, or how it was good, and why the sheep were carried to the other field, driven out to the other field. So she was not able to give any good answer to the child wherein he can be convinced. Now the smaller girl created a diversion by beginning to recite on the road to Mandalay, and she only knew the first line, but she put her limited knowledge to the fullest possible use. So now by this time, when there was this conversation going on between the aunt and the little boy, at that time the smaller girl, who out of the two girls, the one who was smaller, she started reciting a line from her poem. So she knew one poem, and that poem, only one line she could remember, that was on the road to Mandalay. And since she knew only that first line, she kept on repeating it again and again. She repeated the line over and over again in a dreamy but resolute and very audible voice. So, so she kept on repeating the same line again and again in a dreamy but resolute. Now dreamy means dreamy and resolute. Resolute means firm. So although she was doing something, like she was moving around, or she was dancing, she was standing, she was jumping, she was sleeping, whatever she was doing, she was lying down, but then whatever she was doing, although knowingly or unknowingly, she was repeating the same line again and again, but it was in a very firm and a very audible voice, means it can be heard very clear and in a loud voice. It seemed to the bachelor though as though someone had had a bet with her that she could not repeat the line aloud 2000 times without stopping. So she was saying it again and again so much, or so many times repeatedly, that the bachelor felt that someone has must have bet with her that you cannot sing a line or sing this line for at least 2000 times. And uh, she was doing it that repeatedly, that continuously, and that again and again. Whenever whoever it was who had made the wager was likely to lose his bet. Now wager is a bet. So the bachelor felt that whoever has made the bet with her, he was definitely going to lose that, because by this time she has repeated it more than 2000 times. "Come over here and listen to a story," said the aunt when the bachelor had looked twice at her. So when the little girl, smaller girl, was saying the same line again and again, the bachelor was a bit irritated, and twice or thrice he just gave a look at the girl, indicating that he was not really liking what the girl was doing. So the aunt noticed it, and so to divert her attention from the continuous repetition of that line, the aunt called her near, and she said that, "Come here, sit near me and listen to a story. I'll tell you a story."